Welcome to Head On. My name is Paul Winn, and I'm filling in for your regular host, Hilary Smear. Today, we're going to explore the existence of and work of neighborhood associations and committees. With us today is Miss Karen Hovestad from the Departure Bay Neighbourhood Association and Miss Chris LoScerbo of the South End Community Association. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, let's, one of the things that prompted me to think about this was I live in a neighborhood that has a neighborhood association, and I wanted to ask each one of you, should distinct neighborhoods have an association or a committee? How about you?
I might even want to change that around into a statement. I think in order for your neighborhood to be distinct and really have a strong say within the city, that becoming an official association is the best way to do that. Yeah.
And I would agree absolutely and heartily. The best way to have an input into where you live, improve your quality of life and your satisfaction with where you live, get to know the people around you, improve your sense of security, and just plain be involved and feel happier is all part of being part of a neighborhood association, whether you call it an association or a committee or a whatever banner you want to fly it under. Actually having a formalized group that can represent you if there's something going on or you want to plan for something, it makes all the difference.
How would you define a neighborhood? Like, I mean, if you want to set out and say, okay, this is going to be our neighborhood. This is the geographical boundaries. How do you go about that?
Well, from the City of Nanaimo perspective, through the city plan, there are already pretty specific boundaries as to each neighborhood as they see it. But I know from the South End Community Association perspective, we don't necessarily agree 100%. And in fact, instead of hard lines, we have more of gray boundary areas around where some people might live just outside of our designated neighborhood as outlined on a map, but they're still more than welcome to become involved. They're still a valued member of the community and have a huge impact on what we can do or what happens in and around the neighborhood.
Interestingly enough, in our neighborhood, we have people who don't live in our neighborhood anymore, but they grew up there or their grandparents were there, so they have an emotional connection to the area, and that's why they like to join, and there's absolutely no reason why they can't.
Yeah, because I was thinking that it's, how do you find out where the associations exist, and how do you become a member? Is there a test or a criteria that you have to, pass to become a member?
No, in the city of Nanaimo, there used to be a community planner who sort of supervised all the activities of the neighborhood associations. For about 20 years now, there's been a group, an umbrella group called the Nanaimo Neighborhood Network, and it is a representative group of people who belong to all the different neighborhood associations. So each neighborhood association is encouraged to have at least one person who represents their association attend a neighborhood network meeting every 3 or 4 months. And it's a great place for the NNN to help smaller groups or newer groups solve problems without reinventing the wheel. It's just a wonderful thing, and that is quite well supported by the City of Nanaimo. We've always had a city staff member who comes out. They help by providing a meeting room and do email communications and provide paper and stuff. It's just a great way to ensure that there's some cohesiveness across the city and availability for any neighborhood that feels they want to have a new group. Often neighborhood groups spontaneously erupt over issues.
Right.
So issue-driven groups don't often last very long, but they do generate a new group, a new process, with a goal, gives them some voice, gives them some impetus in the community. If they continue, that's great, but if they don't, that's the way it is.
Is it difficult to keep people involved in these activities of the association?
It really really depends. It's really nice when you have a variety of ages and perspectives that are involved, but that doesn't always happen, and I know from our association perspective it changes over time. I'm proud to be a younger member of our association, and there's a lot of life and vibrancy in what we do. So that helps to keep people involved for sure, because the more activities, the more perspectives coming in, the more people you'll attract to it. And I think that, honestly, for me, I moved to my neighborhood because of the neighborhood association. That was one big draw for me. So because of the existing activities or communication tactics that the SECA, the South End Community Association, had already been involved in, that was a huge draw for me to become involved. And I know many other people as well, depending on what's going on in their neighborhood, what they want to become involved in, or what initiatives they personally want to lead and make a change in.
And we've had that experience in our neighborhood as well. People who have chosen through their real estate agent or web-based information have chosen to purchase a home in our neighborhood because of the Departure Bay Neighbourhood Association and the things that they do. For a decade, we had a community family picnic with free food and activities and fun games and stuff. Our history night has been a sold-out event for over 10 years as well, with fascinating speakers, and it draws people from all over the city, not just our neighborhood.
Yeah, because I would think that was, it was like, I just recently moved to, Nanaimo a few years ago, and it was through an activity like you're talking about, just a public meeting about the neighborhood, explaining the history of the area. And I said, well, that'd be interesting. I'm living in this neighborhood. Let me go find out. Do you have similar things in your end of the city?
Like city-led, or
no,
from
no, just the organization stuff that.
Yeah, well, for us in the South End, we have the Miners Heritage Picnic, which is the longest ongoing event that we've had every summer, usually in the end of June. And I believe we're on the 23rd year we just had. So it's a family event, completely free is the goal, and lots of activities, lots of draw, and incorporated in that is history about the mining that has happened in many areas around the South End and underneath the South End, and any other existing events and organizations that are happening.
Do neighborhood associations feel responsible to the people in the neighborhood for the stuff they do? I mean,
absolutely, absolutely. That is the only way to be representative of the neighborhood. Our association began with a survey of the neighborhood. We put together a series of questions asking people what was important to them, what they would come out to support, what issues were a concern. And it was quite a long survey, and we went out door to door and asked people to fill it out, did it with them. And that was the impetus for providing the baseline for creating the group that is now the Departure Bay Neighbourhood Association. And subsequently, we have continued doing that, and that format also supported the work that we did to provide our neighborhood plan, or to create our neighborhood plan.
Well, that's interesting. Do you have a neighborhood plan as well? Do you know?
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah. Is it like long-term?
Yeah, anything from immediate and short-term planning, like something that'll happen within 2 to 5 years, but long-term planning like 25 and more. So it takes a wider perspective to realize that things can't happen tomorrow, but at the same time, it gives you really tangible steps to work forward and to keep pushing as an association to remind the city or remind council members of what needs to be done, what initiatives are there, and what will really support the community to be the best that it can be.
Our plan. Oh, sorry. Our plan was established just over 10 years ago. And on an annual basis, we would get together with a member of staff from the city and review the plan to see what has happened. There's no point in having a plan if you don't have an implementation plan for that plan. So we would review it every year and look at, whose responsibility it is to maintain or review certain aspects of the plan. We're at the point where we have achieved the majority of the goals we set out for a decade ago, and it's time for us actually to do a new plan.
Yeah, because it's something that I noticed in thinking of Departure Bay, because I know that there's a lot of First Nations presence in that area. How about your area? Is there a strong First Nations presence in it?
Nanaimo Reserve Number 1 is right on the edge of our neighborhood plan. And so we definitely have working relationships. And there's not many members that come to our meetings every month, but at some of our events we get wonderful turnout, and there's so many partnership opportunities. So more relationship building is constantly, it's a work in progress, and it's exciting to see how much cross-cultural activity there is in Nanaimo, or in the South End in particular, because it is growing. It is happening more and more. I know let's see, we had a movie in the park last year, and it was great to see so many young families, whether they were from the reserve or from other communities families that we haven't seen before at other events, and it was just a great way to attract people that don't normally come to a monthly meeting, for example.
No, that's good. The reason I was asking the question too is because that was one of the things that I noticed when I first moved here. Seemed to be a strong presence of the First Nations people. I didn't know distinct neighborhoods per se, and I really wasn't familiar with the closeness of the reserve. Just that I noticed there was a lot of presence, and I just wondered if there was any kind of connection with that. But one of the things I was interested in was how does one go about getting new members? I know you mentioned if there's a crisis situation and you want it and people rally around that, but if it's just to come and sit and say, okay, for the next 10 years, what would you like to see happen in your neighborhood? How do you get people to come out and get involved that way?
Oh, well, I mean, from SECA's perspective, it's often events that draw people in. It's so, the Miners' Picnic I brought up already.
Yes, yeah.
We just recently had a large event in our neighborhood called My Street, which was the revitalization, envisionment of Nickel Street as we wish to see it.
Okay.
And it drew in a lot of people from all over Nanaimo to see what the potential of Nickel Street really is as a commercial center and community center. We've also had chalk walks. We've had
Garbage can painting.
oh yes, so many things. Yeah, art bin projects. We had art bin adoption, which are really beautiful artistic garbage cans painted all throughout the South End. There's the library stations.
People's garbage cans?
Yes.
Well, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not the city's garbage.
No, no.
They're
these
very
are-
cool.
Oh,
They're very
okay.
cool. They're works of art.
Oh, okay, good. No, I think that's interesting. It certainly would help define your neighborhood.
Definitely, yeah. And there's so many other projects that are like that. Gung Haggis Fat Choi, we've done for 2 years. The list goes on.
Hatter Tea
Estuary
Party.
Day, the Mad Hatter Tea Party. How could I have forgotten that? Yes, the list goes on. And most events are led by different people for different reasons. We have a wide variety of perspectives in the South End. So there's environmentalism focus, there's community participation in the sort of more artist scene. It's wide variety of events going on, led by different people.
You know, the city in Nanaimo, apart from you're mentioning that they have a person who might come and meet with the committee and that, does the city itself play any role in promoting the existence of neighborhood associations? Do you know?
Well, We wish it was stronger.
Okay.
Absolutely wish it was stronger. I have done a lot of research into other communities and how their cities support their community participation. And there's some really cool ideas out there, some awesome processes. And it hasn't felt that it's been that supported in the city.
That seems like that would be a job for that the association you were mentioning that was sort of
The
a
Nanaimo
collective.
Neighborhood Network, yeah.
Yeah, the network. To sit down with the city and say, look, this is the kind of support. It doesn't always have to be money, as you know. I mean, it just has to being an acknowledgement. But one of the first places I had to go when I moved to Nanaimo was to City Hall. And it would have been nice if they had even a brochure or something that says, oh, here's a group of neighborhood associations. This is what, like a pamphlet, and you could look through and say, oh, this is the neighborhood I live in. Oh, okay, so let me.
They used to have a spot on the city website that was designed to allow people to find out if there were neighborhoods associations in their neighborhood, and different neighborhood associations were encouraged to post information there, minutes and invitations, whatever. The person who was running that website is, I don't know if they're still there, but that whole initiative seems to have kind of slid under the carpet, unfortunately.
Yeah,
There is still a list of
There's
all
still
of
a
the
list.
existing neighborhood associations that are active
on the city's.
on the city's website.
Okay.
And through, it's really interesting how actually the city might not be the best person to promote such things either. A lot of community activities actually happen a little bit better if it's community led,
organically.
and Facebook has been a really interesting way of doing that and getting more people engaged. However, it's still a limited audience for some people
The
that don't
other-
have access.
Organization is the real estate board, and because they have a vested interest in people wanting to be involved in their community, and therefore buy here, move here, whatever, and they are. We've had support from from different realtors in the real estate board for different events, but it would be a really good partnership, I would think.
Most certainly.
Yeah, no, I think it's a natural. I just thinking, I guess because I feel that the city, should have a responsibility to support groups that are trying to make the life better in this for the residents of the city, and it becomes like a neutral body as opposed to an adversarial body in many ways.
That would be nice.
But because I know both organizations yours have websites, so that people can, even if the city did nothing but post those websites, so that people could access them and find out what you're doing, when you're doing it, and I think that would be extremely important. Okay, now this is sort of a hypothetical. If say I'm a new person in the neighborhood, and somebody, if you decide who's going to knock on the door to say, and what kind of pitch would you make? How about you, Chris, first? Say, I'm a new neighbor, and you're going to convince me to become a part of the association.
Well, the responsibility is to each member. Some members don't choose to, but I know that the South End has been really focused on that, and this actually just happened last week. We have a new neighbor, and so it simply involves either knocking on the door or seeing them face to face, ideally first, introducing myself and saying, hey, are you aware that there's actually a really active community association in our neighborhood, and we would love to have you come out to not only see what's going on, but also have a say in what is discussed at the meetings, and maybe how we lead and continue with some of the activities that we engage in. It might even involve, before doing the pitch, asking what some of their interests are and why they moved to the area. Some people have really specific reasons and other people don't, but it's really wonderful to actually connect it to some of the initiatives that we have in each neighborhood association.
And is it the same in your end?
Well, pretty much. I know personally, I'm always on the eye for if there's somebody new in the neighborhood, and make a point of walking by and invite them to, thank them for moving to the neighborhood, welcome them, and encourage them to join the organization, or at least come out and find out what we're about. And we also, on a regular basis, at least once a year, we'll do, I hate to call it a membership drive, but an awareness drive, where we'll take a newsletter and go around to people's homes and tuck them in the door and make sure that people know what's going on in the neighborhood.
Yeah, because this is as I said earlier, that my knowledge in the Departure Bay area, because that's where I live, it was the activity of the history a night that caught my attention. You know, I saw it. I think there was even something in the local newspaper.
We try to put it in all the local media and signs, posters, and stuff like that. You know,
because that's what it. You know,
right.
At least I know I had a date and a time and a location where I could go out and then and every time something happens, you know, I could find out, or at least I then made connection with people. And I guess it must be similar in the South End too.
Well, I also have a friend of mine is one of the organizers for the Nanaimo Newcomers Club, and so I try to keep her updated on what's going on as far as the neighborhood network, so that when people are moving into town, that's one of the things they can talk about at Newcomers Club is what the different neighborhood associations do and where they are, so that, and what contacts are available.
Yeah, no, it's something that I think is really crucial about community and participation, because you can't complain if you don't participate and let your feelings be known, or your ideas or suggestions for, because in past experiences, you know, I've been in neighborhoods where people were concerned about crosswalks. I mean, you know, it seems like, or speed signs, or not so much where I've lived before, but yes, in this neighborhood, there's deer all over the place.
Noise and industrial, smell or anything like that. Yeah, lots of issues that can come up.
Yeah, and I think that's, and again, it goes down to what you both have mentioned, is quality of life, where you're living. You know, you can sit back and do nothing, or you can get involved and improve the quality of life that is in your neighborhood.
Block Watch is a great program.
Yeah, I've seen signs around in neighborhoods that, you know, it says this is a block, a Block Watch neighborhood.
Some neighborhoods don't have a neighborhood association, but they do have a Block Watch group, and that really pulls people together in the same kind of way, but it's not quite as social.
Now, when you have activities, I'm thinking of the city again. Now, there's city facilities. Do they charge you rent if you have to use them?
So we actually have a deal with the owners of the Princess Royal School, where we are given free access to the building every month to have our meetings. But that's an agreement that we've had for a long time, and the new owners have actually taken that on as a part of a community relationship building process, which we really value, and really we pull that card as much as possible, because we see how valuable those relationships can be, and how influential they can be on the rest of the community.
Yeah, because I wonder how much money it could cost the city to say, okay, you know, you need a meeting room, you know, and so so it's going to be for 3 hours or 2 hours or whatever it is, and it's going to cost $50 an hour for the space. I mean, you would think they could absorb it.
The city actually gives community groups a break on the cost of the rental, so it's slightly less. But I have a feeling that the reason the rental agreement with the money attached to it is more about insurance than it is about making money. It's more about, you know, dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, I'm feeling naive at this point about this stuff. But it seems to me that I really think the concept of the associations is really great, and I've actually never lived in a community where that existed before. You know, where I could actually knock on a door, so go out.
I've never lived in a community without one.
You see, where it's always, with me, it was always city council. You always had to go to city council, and again, it was usually based on an issue. You know, and then once the issue was either resolved, then that was it. You know, there was nothing till the next
Your
issue.
city councilors are your political representatives, but your neighborhood association is your heart.
Yeah.
It's what puts this. It's what puts the social aspect and the relationship building opportunities into right where you live.
Yeah.
And each neighborhood is going to have its own unique relationship building opportunities too, whether it's a local business that actually wants to create a solid partnership, or, well, it could be anything. Maybe it's even with the city itself. But those partnership opportunities are definitely unique to every neighborhood. And it's something to really investigate and see what is your group's interests and what do you want to create. Because that bonding that happens, that social aspect, that really does improve, even just by looking at perspectives a little bit differently when you realize it actually involves larger perspectives than just singularly my own. It actually impacts a lot of people, whatever decisions are being made or developments that are going in or whatever the issue at hand is. And so when we look at those issues as opportunities or like positive solution solving, then it's amazing how many more friends you get on side and can help on board to complete any initiative you have.
Yeah, I think the collective you were talking about strikes me as it could be a very powerful, at least a voice for the entire Nanaimo area. You know, just saying, look, we've got these 10 associations who have a common interest here, and want you to become involved doing A, B, or C with them. I think that's kind of that's you know, community activities are good. But we're coming to the end of our time now, and is there anything that you would like to sort of leave for the people who are viewing, comment to encourage them to get out and contact their neighborhood associations or committees?
Life is better when you belong to a neighborhood association. You've got more friends. You've got friends you haven't met yet. So find one and join.
Good.
Yeah.
How about you?
And even if one doesn't exist, don't let that stop you from knocking on a few doors or starting a few conversations at the mailbox or whatever it is, wherever that community gathering place is intuitively, because those relationships will last lifetimes, maybe even past your own. And our Nanaimo will be stronger for the more strong relationships we have.
Maybe that's why Canada Post is taking away home delivery.
Yeah,
They
sure.
want us to gather at the post box, right?
I just wonder where the post box is going to be on Parliament Hill. You know, where their boxes are going to be. Hey, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and inform me and the viewers, because I think it's really something that is crucial and important to any neighbor. It's like a lifeblood, as you were saying. You know, it's important to get involved. Well, thank you very much. Really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Right.